Hey guys, and welcome back for another sewing tutorial. Today we're going to be doing a little sew along project. I got this awesome stocking pattern over at Copper Creek Patterns. It is a free pattern that you can get if you sign up for their newsletter. So of course, I'm gonna get that. It's free. And here it is. So it's a cute little stocking. It has a little welt pocket on the front, which I had not seen before, and I thought was a really good idea. So it's a super simple stocking, a great size. I made up 2 of these, one for each of my children. So I'm all ready for Christmas now. But it only took like 20 minutes to make these. It really takes no time at all. So if you're looking for a last minute, oh no, the stockings are in disrepair and I need to make something, this is a good project. So, and if you want to go cut out all your materials, you can do it alongside me. And let's go sew up a stocking. Okay, so we're gonna start off with the welt pocket. So I have my welt pocket pieces cut out. I have the actual pocket cut out. I have the hanging tab so that you can hang up your stocking. And then I have my stocking, which is going to be red. I'm using this beautiful Minky fabric. I cut them out with the right sides together. I'm using this thin cotton as the lining. And then I have my fur here already cut out and ready to go. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my welt pocket pieces and I'm going to fold them with the right side or wrong sides together. And if you're able to iron this portion, it will make things a lot easier. If you're using a vinyl or faux leather, it might be a little bit more difficult, but you can use a pressing wheel to be able to try to press down your crease, or you can use some double-sided tape on the inside, because we're not going to open this piece back up again, so that would probably be the best solution. So I'm hoping that this fabric, it doesn't love to be ironed, but hopefully that'll, it's very curly. It's minky stuff. It's hard to tame. Okay. Even some spray starch can help to tame your fabric if it doesn't want to listen. And using steam on knit fabrics will help tell it what to do. Just gonna put some pins. The pressing did help, but it doesn't make it perfect when you're working with minky fabric. Okay, so now you're going to pick your stocking, which side is the way that you want your stocking to hang on your mantle. So I kind of like the toe to be on the left side. So this is going to be the front piece, and I'm going to place my welt pieces where I want my pocket to be. And there isn't an actual like positioning on this tutorial, so you can kind of, I just kind of put the fur at the top, and then I just be like, okay, I want it to be not right underneath, but just probably an inch below where that fur is going to come down. And I'm just going to take my pin out and I'm going to reposition it. That, and then we're going to take the other piece and we're going to put that so that the raw edges are touching. And what we're going to do is we're going to sew a 1/4 of an inch in on both pieces, and we're going to go until there's about a 1/2 inch on either side, and then we'll do the rest afterwards. But that's all that you need to do. It's super easy. Just make sure that your fabric doesn't move and doesn't cause any issues. Take out your pins while you're sewing. Starting a 1/2 inch in from the edge of that welt fabric, we're just going to sew back stitching, making sure we don't hit any pins. And we don't want any of this fabric to stretch while we're sewing, because my fabric is a stretchy fabric. And we'll do it on the other side. And that's how it's gonna look. Okay, from here we're gonna take a pair of scissors and we're going to kind of fold it in half, and we're gonna cut in between those seams, and I'm just gonna cut like a hole because I don't want to cut too much. And then I'm gonna open it up, and then we're going to cut down the center. And if you're having a hard time, you can also put a little cutting mat down, and you can just kind of go in between. But not all the way, because we're going to go up here, and we're going to cut like towards, I'm going to cut towards the ending stitches, kind of like a triangle shape. You'll see that. And so about 1/4 of an inch down from those stitches, you're going to stop, and then you're going to cut towards those stitches. Okay. So now you're going to take that and you're going to flip it up. Okay, and then you're going to flip the other part down, and we have kind of like a clean edge there. We're going to take these little edges here and we're going to put them inside. Okay, like that. I'm going to flip it over. And it might overlap a bit. And you just need to kind of figure out how you want it to overlap and how you want it to look from the front, which I want the top to be over it. Now that little triangle is coming. We're just going to kind of stick it in there. And it's the same thing over here. And that's my little welt pocket. It looks really, really cute. If you wanted to go around it and create a top stitch, you can do that, but I am going to pass on that option, and we're just going to go ahead and attach our pocket lining. So we have this interesting shaped pocket lining, kind of weird, but what you're going to do is you're going to fold it so that it creases where it starts to turn, and you'll see that one side is actually taller than the other side. And this is going to be the part that attaches to the top of our welt pocket, and this is going to be the bottom. So I'm going to flip my pocket over, or the front of my stocking. And we're gonna get our pins again. And I forgot, we're gonna do the right sides on the inside. So it's gonna go like that. Because we want the nice side of the Minky on the inside. And then we're just going to take the top edge of the longer section and we're just going to pin it to the seam allowance of the top welt. And then I'm just going to go ahead and sew along the stitch lines again to secure this pocket. And if you want to do one at a time, you can do that. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you how I do the next part, which is we're taking the bottom seam allowance and we're just going to secure that. And we're not going to sew up the sides of the pocket just yet. We're just going to work on this part. Okay, so we'll just sew that and then we'll sew that. Okay, so that stitch line that we created the first time, I'm actually going to just go right next to it. Removing my pins. And then I'm going to flip it over. And do the other side. Okay, so we're just going to make sure that the sides are all tucked in the way that they were before, that little triangle. Same thing. And then we'll sew up the sides. Which means we're going to pin the sides, and then when we get up to the welt pocket, we are going to grab the sides of the welt and that little triangle, and we're going to sew all of those layers together. So it's not going to look cute, but it's just what we have to do. So pin that. Make sure that little triangle's in there. Make sure it's all in there. Make sure on the other side though that it looks good. Takes a little bit of fiddling sometimes. The other side. Make sure that triangle is out. We don't want to catch any of the front of the stocking. We only want to grab the sides, and that's it. Make sure that little triangle's in there and the raw edges of the welt pocket facings. gonna go up it. Make sure it looks good on the other side. Which there's a little bit of a gap there, so we didn't catch that triangle well enough. And in closer inspection, it is true, I did not. Now we're going to take our little hanger here and we're just going to put that with the right sides together. We're going to clip that and we're going to sew 1/4 of an inch seam allowance right down the side. So that is it. Now this type of pocket is definitely one to practice. This is my second time doing this type of welt, and I will admit it is not absolutely stunning, but that's okay. And with the Minky, it's kind of forgiving, so I think it looks beautiful. Give it a good press. Okay, so now we can assemble our stocking, which takes no time at all. We have our little piece here, that is our tie. I'm going to go ahead and take a little turning tool that I use. Has a little hook on the end, kind of like a hook rug kind of device. I hook it onto the end. Sometimes that little arm gets in the way. And then I just start to pull it through. There. Okay, so there's our little loop to be able to hang our stocking. Perfect. Alright, so now we're going to take our front and back stocking, put those with the right sides together, and we're only going to sew around the stocking, not the top of the stocking. We're going to do the same with the cotton, and if there's any right sides together, make sure you do right sides together. And if you wanted to create a little bit of a larger seam allowance in your stocking lining, that's actually going to help it to lay nicer on the inside. If your stocking is exactly the same size, it might not want to fit properly. So I'd say, you know, if it's a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, then do a 3/8 on the lining. Okay. And then we are going to prepare our fur. Which, if you haven't watched my stories lately on Instagram, I show you how I like to cut my fur, which is with I like to trace out my pattern and use an X-Acto knife. And I use the X-Acto knife on the back so I don't have to actually cut the fur. So now we're going to sew the fur piece with the right sides together, and we're just going to sew up the short side. I'm going to just carefully move the fur out of the way and then pin. I know the fur can be a little bit crazy, depending on the fur you have. But just kind of push it in with your fingers and then pin. And so allow you to be able to see the backing better and give you a more even seam allowance. I usually bring up my seam allowance too, just because it might be a little hard to get through. It's very thick. So like I said, make it a little bit of a bigger seam allowance on the lining. Okay, so now we have all of our pieces, and I forgot to mention that I'm actually going to be leaving a gap in my stocking, so I need to cut that. This is going to allow me to turn the stocking. So I'm just going to go ahead and reinforce that. And then that's going to be my hole for turning. Okay, so now we're going to assemble the whole stocking. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our stocking, and I already flipped it right sides out, and I'm going to put my fur on top. So this is the wrong side of the fur touching the right side of the stocking. I'm going to take the seam of the fur and I'm going to line that up with the back side seam. So I'm calling it the back side seam because, like, if you looked at a sock, like, this would be the back of the sock. Okay, so we're just going to fit that onto the inside of the fur. Clip at the top. Okay, from here we're going to take the tie and we're going to put that at the heel of the stocking. And I'm going to put this on top of that seam. And it's already folded and looks good. Now we're just going to put our lining on. So we'll take this and we're going to put the stocking inside of the lining. But the lining, I have not flipped it right sides out, so it's still inside out. So it's going to be right sides together. Put it inside the stocking. And then bring, again, to the top, lining up those seams. So the fur is going to be in between the layers. And you can just readjust those clips that you already have. Alright, so that's how it's going to be. You're going to sew all the way around, making sure that your little tie is tucked in between those layers, and you catch all of the layers when you're sewing. Okay, so now we're going to take our stocking and flip it right sides out through the hole in that lining. And then we push that lining into the stocking. Kind of fix the top there. And if you're worried about your fur kind of flipping up at all, you can put some tacking stitches in there by hand. But as long as you have that tie in the right spot, it's going to keep it from folding up. And I think that turned out really cute. Okay, well, we're all done. I think it turned out really cute. I'm so excited to give it to my daughter. I sewed up another one in a contrasting color, so I thought that that would be really cute on the stocking this year. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please give me a big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and of course, click on that notification bell to be alerted of new and future tutorials. If you are new to the channel, I do have a podcast called the Sewcial Hour where we talk about all things sewing, and all those links will be in the description box down below for you, so you can check those out. And of course, follow me over on Instagram. If you make any of my projects, I would love to see them and share with the community. So yeah, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys.